I'm sure most of them are tourist traps.
It seemed like all the blogs for Halifax had the exact same thing, like they were just copying each other with stock photos. So I'm thinking some of them might be total duds, but we're gonna find out for you to save you time and money. We are standing outside the St. Paul's Church, and this was actually the very first building to be built here in Halifax. And
it was 1749 to be exact.
That's right. Thanks, Phil, for paying attention. So we came here to see if it's true that there's something lurking inside this church.
Legend has it that there is a silhouette in one of the stained glass windows that occurred from the blast, or the explosion rather, in the harbor.
Which happened, as you guys probably are aware of, in 1917. So we cannot confirm or deny if there's a silhouette of the priest who was standing in front of the window when the blast occurred, because for some reason they're not open today. Maybe because it's a holiday.
It might be. It says they're supposed to be open, but we got free parking, so it's some kind of national holiday. Forgive us for not knowing what it is, but we're not from here. So
what we want to know from you guys, have you been inside this church? Is it a thing, and is it worth people to come check it out?
Yeah, and if you have a picture of it, bonus points in the comments.
I think it would be worth it to go inside the church just because of its age. I love old historical churches, but I can't confirm or deny that.
I'm good on the outside. It's an old church.
Yeah,
I got it.
Phil's worried about lightning.
We're standing on Argyle Street,
which is right next to the church we were just at, and we wanted to point out this restaurant. This is called Five Fishermen, and while we're not going to eat here, that used to be actually a morgue and a funeral home, and it's where the victims of the Titanic were taken after the Titanic sank.
Yeah, now, obviously they turned it into a restaurant many, many years ago. However, pretty cool piece of history. This, I would have been interested in going in to see some of the pictures if they have any, but they're closed.
And the ratings are good online, but yeah, no reservation for us. Welcome to the Halifax Boardwalk. It is the longest boardwalk in the world.
That it is. And we spent a couple hours down here yesterday walking around, and I'm telling you, it'll take you 4 to 5 hours if you just mosey.
What a perfect way to spend the day, just dreaming. Way to spend the day, just honeydew, baby boo, sugar bee, love me.
Along the boardwalk, you'll find quite a few art installations, including these.
Yeah, these light posts look like they melted in the heat, but the sign says they got drunk and fell down.
So if you want to see how your friends react whenever they've been drinking, just come check out the light posts. That might be a hint.
I resemble 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of those in my time.
Probably all of them in your youth.
Not at once, though. Initially, the waterfront was a working wharf. This is where goods and cargo were brought in, and this is also where passengers arrived and departed.
This area became really run down and was really dilapidated. So the city took it over, and in the 80s they started the revitalization. And today, the boardwalk, you'll find it bustling with people and attractions and activities and food. There's so much to see and do here.
And you would think she's Italian the way her hands move.
Want to see some unique street performers? This is the place. Like, they are everywhere down here, and the crowds are huge. We're finishing up our walk on the boardwalk. All right, Phil, we have to tell them. Tourist trap, or is it worth taking the time to come down here?
Yes and yes. It is definitely a tourist trap, but it is definitely worth your time to visit.
That's not a very clear answer.
No, it is. It's a nice area if you want to get down and see the waterfront here in Halifax. Enjoy some of the local fare.
People watch, restaurants, just walk around and check things out. A few things you do have to watch out for is parking. It is paid parking and not a lot of it down here in the city. And the other thing is crowds. It got really crowded down here.
Yeah, well, they also have street performers that are working.
They are working the crowd.
Yeah, in the middle of the wharf, so it can get loud and it can get crowded. But I got to tell you, if you're in the Halifax area, this is a must-come see.
And I've heard the nightlife down here is amazing, and we're old, so we're not staying that long.
Well, they also have a ton of chairs and benches that you can sit on and look out and watch the boats and kayakers and whatnot go by. So it would be definitely worth your time to come down here.
There is something for everyone, that's for sure. One of the places that's in almost every blog isn't actually here in Halifax. It's about an hour out, and it's called Peggys Cove.
It is known to be the busiest and most photographed lighthouse in Canada.
Now we're not actually going out to see it today because we were able to visit it when we were on our Today is Someday cruise, and we had a great time going out there checking out the lighthouse. It is beautiful, but this is another one of those that is, yes, it's worth going to, but it might be a tourist trap too.
Definitely a tourist trap. When they say the most photographed lighthouse, that's to get you out there. And it works because it is a beautiful place to go and hang out. Again, they had places you could sit outside, you could just watch the water. The little fishing village was pretty cool. And we had some really good food.
And they brought people in by the busload.
Yeah.
So like Phil said, the food was good, but the crowds were insane. The biggest tourist trap there is the little gift shop.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, it is a mom and pop, so that the gift shop and the restaurant's owned by this family. So, you got to give them a little bit of love. I appreciate what they're doing, but it is you are elbow to elbow, butt to butt with your neighbor that you haven't met yet.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough to be in this area when there's not a cruise ship in, there'll probably be less people coming in by the busload, but it is still a tourist draw.
So I would recommend, if you want to go out there to check it out, beat all the crowds, get there first thing in the morning as the sun's coming up, or in the evening as the sun's going down. It's going to be a better view anyway, and you're going to have a better time while you're there. Yesterday while we were touring the boardwalk, we also hopped on another item that's listed everywhere on blogs that's a must-see.
HMCS Sackville, a Canadian Navy ship that was built back in the early 40s, I think 1941. It sits here as a museum restored to its original configuration of 1941.
Now it is free to go on, although there is a high pressure salesman at the door wanting you to make a donation, which we did. And they kind of have it set up a little bit for Navy life.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I'm glad I was not a sailor back in those days because the accommodations on board were not that appealing.
You should come aboard. Just follow the white arrows. Take you around the ship for a self-guided tour.
Thank you.
Pull this in by hand.
Look at this.
The bridge is taken out. The control gets shifted back here to after steering, and they would steer the ship from here. So I did a lot of that on Midway when I stood watch. I would rotate from the bridge, lookouts, and then down to after steering. They would actually test shifting control to after steering at midnight. So we would take control. We had these little trick wheels, we called them, to steer the ship. So they would tell us over the headphones where to go. 5 degrees starboard, 5 degrees port. We would turn the ship from after steering. This is pretty cool that they had. Look at how big that wheel is. But it's moving this. So.
All right, so should you skip it? Is it a tourist trap? What's the scoop on this, Phil?
Being a Navy dude, a ship guy, I would come see it. So if you're down here, why not? Hop on board.
We've heard the best ice cream in town is from Cal's. And I don't know if you can see, but
So there's the line. So that's a good sign. If the line is wrapping around the building outside, we must try it. This is amazing, super sweet, but I got the Canadian maple. The maple kind, really good.
In the land of fresh lobster and seafood, there's something else you have to try.
The donair, it's supposed to be the food here in Halifax, so we're gonna try it.
Now there are two restaurants that kept popping up over and over in my search for things to do. It's this one, Tony's, and the other one is the King of Donair. So we decided to come to Tony's. He's been open since what, the 70s?
1976.
So he should know what he's doing. All right, this thing is massive. We ordered a medium because we weren't sure how much to get. This is loaded with shaved beef. It has a sauce on there. It has tomatoes and onions.
It's really good. It's got good flavor. It does.
It's kind of sweet. The sauce is sweet. The meat's not quite crunchy, but a little bit. It is kind of like a shawarma or a gyro to me, even though here they say it's not. All right, so the question is it a tourist trap or is it worth the visit? Phil?
I would say it's worth the visit, and while we were inside, there were a ton of locals that came in, so that's a good sign.
We always like to eat where the locals eat when we travel to different places. It kind of helps you get a feel for the culture and the community, so I never think that is a tourist trap. So
No.
I think it was good for what it was. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I would recommend splitting a medium or
Yes.
getting 2 smalls.
It was huge.
Yeah, and the portion of fries I asked for a small portion, it would have fed 4.
Yeah. The farmer's market you see behind me is actually the oldest in North America. But the question is, should you hit it or forget it?
Forget it.
All right, so we actually came yesterday on a Sunday and there weren't that many vendors. And the vendors that were there were just okay. Apparently the day to come is Saturday, and that's when it's packed with vendors, and they have everything from jewelry to fresh fruits and vegetables to arts and all kind of things.
So I guess I should retract my forget it statement because we didn't come on a Saturday. So
we can't judge,
yeah,
is
we
what
can't
we're
really
trying to
judge
say.
it. Yeah, from what we saw yesterday, meh. But if you've been here on a Saturday and the place was loaded to the gills, let us know.
So as far as it being a tourist trap, it's a big question mark for us. Welcome to Pier 21, home of the Canadian Immigration Museum. 1 in 5 Canadians know someone or is related to someone who has passed through these doors.
That's pretty interesting. Also, if you knew of anybody that immigrated here between 1865 and 1935, chances are you'll find the record of them in here.
All right, so we're gonna go in and we're gonna test out this museum to see if it's a tourist trap or if it's worth your time.
Much to be found. Watch the world spin round. It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. We'll chase the sky, watch us shine. It's in our eyes, burning bright.
I have a half dozen eggs. I'll take this loaf of bread.
The Wonder Bread, what else?
And the
about
can of
some
spaghetti.
Spam?
Looks, no, I'm a spaghetti
Are you
guy.
sure?
I'm a
I think you like
spaghetti guy.
Spam. SpaghettiOs?
Yeah, I'm spaghetti. There you
I'm gonna throw in a Spam on the house.
go. Okay.
That'll be $12.38, please.
Okay, can you put the Spam in the spaghetti back?
After completing our tour through the museum, I really enjoyed it. I am a museum fan, but I really liked walking through all the years to show how immigration has really molded and made Canada what it is today.
Yeah, for me, I would say definitely come check it out. Come hit it.
It's totally worth it. All right, hold up. Did you guys see that face? So as I'm editing and I heard and saw what he said, I knew he needs to retract his statement and officially let us know his real thoughts of the Immigration Museum.
It was all right. I would not go out of my way to go there and check it out. There you have it. I said it.
Given the option, would you have come to this museum on your own?
No, I would not have.
See, there you go. So if you're not a museum person, there's nothing here that's a draw for you. This probably is not the museum for you.
But if you are with a museum person, you'll probably get drugged to a museum like I was.
Next up is the Maritime Museum, and they are best known for detailing the Halifax explosion and for having artifacts of the Titanic, including the only remaining deck chair. We just finished the Maritime Museum, and the question is it a tourist trap or was it worth it? Phil?
Definitely worth it for me.
It's funny how someone who hates museums, if you put them in a museum with an explosion or about ships or navies, suddenly it's good. I think it was definitely worth it. It was really cool to see all the artifacts and the ships and learn a little bit more really about the explosion.
Yeah, I found interesting that there was a deck gun that landed 3.5 miles away from where the Mont Blanc exploded, and there was an 1,100-pound anchor that was found 2 miles away. That is a powerful blast.
Yeah.
I mean, just to see the artifacts and how thick the steel was, that it just twisted it like nothing, was amazing.
Another part of the museum is out back in the harbor, and that is the Acadia, which is an old ship that launched in 1913 for the very first cruise, and you guys can tour the main deck of that.
It's the only surviving ship from the Halifax blast in 1917. That is one tough ship.
And it's the last surviving ship of its class, too.
True.
So it is definitely a historic ship, and it's still under rehab, so you can only tour the main deck, but it is free. You do not have to pay to go in the museum to check out the ship.
And here's a fun fact. When Stacy was in the United States Navy, she served
Way back
aboard
in the day.
She served aboard the USS Acadia.
Yes.
It was a destroyer tender. So she did, what, 1.5 years, 2 years on that?
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to see both Acadias, but we can't today because it's Monday, so we can't go on it.
These bricks behind us might give you a hint at where we are.
And if you've been here before, you definitely have an idea where that is.
Born for adventure, made to run free. Days we'll remember with the world to see. Always ready to run when the wild's calling. Ready to run and we won't stop. We were born for adventure. Born for adventure. Born for adventure, made to run free. Days will remember.
I found what looked like a moat and an old barracks. So again, I have brought Phil to military history. I don't know how that always works. I need to get him to some other kinds of history and force it down his throat because this is just too easy.
This is a neat fortress that was built here. So apparently this was the fourth one built on this location, last one being built in 1856. See, I do read and retain.
When he wants to.
The South Magazine is where they held all the gunpowder. There were 100-pound barrels in there, and it's enclosed inside these walls here. So this is actually the magazine, and it has walls all the way around it.
We just finished our tour of the Citadel, and I can say without any doubt, this is not a tourist trap.
No, it is definitely not. It's a walk down history lane, that's for sure. This served a great purpose here for the I guess, city of Halifax.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see how they laid the stones and how thick it was and all the separation and how they did all the maneuvers to make sure they couldn't be seen. It was actually interesting. And yes, we are military, so yes, we are biased, but it's fascinating. And I can tell you there are a bunch of kids running around in there having a great time too.
It's amazing that not only was it demolished and torn down, but they rebuilt it 4 different times. And when you see the models of each one, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting how technology grew, how there were more people here, there was more for them to protect, so there were more soldiers here, and the infrastructure itself just got better and better over time.
Yeah, they said that there was never a round or projectile fired in anger from here because the massive citadel itself was enough to deter folks from coming in. So
Yeah, I can see how people would be a little nervous about pulling up. And like this, what you guys can't see is we're on top of a hill. And you can see all of the harbor from this hill. So nobody is sneaking up on these guys.
yeah, they had cannons on every corner. So if you were coming in the harbor and saw this, you'd think twice for sure.
That wraps it up here for our time in Halifax. And if you're watching this video because you're researching Halifax, we have an adventure for you that's just about an hour outside the city.
And if you want to feel like a kid again, you're going to want to watch it.
All right, the video is right here.